G'day, everybody. It's Alan Endres here, founder of ZuCoins and ZuCaz. It's ZuTime. This is where my time is your time. So let's make the best of this time. I know it's Friday afternoon, 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time on the 8th of October, 2021. Everybody loves Fridays. They want the weekends. Bit of golf, get outdoors if you can, if you're not in lockdown. So this is an exciting episode again. The world's on fire, everybody. On fire with crypto. I'm on fire. I'm feeling great, feeling enormous. Today's topic, an easy one. Walt Disney. That's right. You heard it. Walt Disney. Today, I'm going to lead into some stories about my hero, the great Walt Disney. Now, he's born in 1901. Died in 1966, unfortunately. The tender age was 65, but what an achievement in his lifetime. He was a bankrupt. Unbelievable. How scary is that? We all get on there. We watch the Walt Disney shows, Touchstone, Pixar, all that sort of stuff, all created by a bankrupt. Now, leading into that, I just thought I'd read a little article about the Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney. And when you hear this little article, it was done many years ago, many years ago, goes right back to 1996, actually, when Toy Story came out, which is all part of that Walt Disney conglomerate. And then we're going to shuffle back into how that's relevant today and the things that I've talked about of where we're going and the dream, the big dream, my dream, your dream's my dream. So here it is. This is the little article. And we're talking about a guy who we all appreciate as being a genius and, again, a bankrupt. I mean, how scary is that? Fancy letting a bankrupt loose to create a giant business like Walt Disney. Wow. Anyway, an entrepreneur, a visionary, and a dreamer. That's the bit I like. Now, the article goes to say, and it's been summarised, that Walt Disney and his corporation are either one of the most evilest companies and persons in the world, or simply a soft target for countless fabricated rumours, lies and hoaxes. Now, the National Enquirer ran numerous exposés to discredit Walt Disney, including one article that began as follows, quote, Walt Disney was one of America's most admired geniuses, but behind the scenes, he was a hard-drinking drug user. Unbelievable. Does that sound familiar with how people put this stuff out? I'll go on. Over the years, the press and many individuals have exploited the public's fascination with Walt Disney to further their own self-interests. Interesting. Everybody has an agenda. In many cases, these organisations or individuals deliberately fabricated false and harmful rumours to strengthen unfounded myths about Walt Disney. Even worse, elaborate hoaxes were published in books and articles that were easy to disprove. The sad thing is that as gullible the public were, they were led astray with a lot of this misinformation. The false myths then became, quote, well-known unfounded facts. For instance, there was an organisation that wanted to boycott the screening of Toy Story in 1995 because Woody, the name of one of the film's animated characters, remember he's an animated little character, little Woody, we love Woody, is a slang term for penis. And Buzz, that's the name of the co-star, was a drug term. Now, although the story was false and gained traction in a local weekly newspaper, it was later revealed that the story was a hoax and had started with a letter published on, guess what? The internet. There was no boycott of the film, and there was no star called penis, and there was no star called drugs. Now, I find that absolutely amazing. You go back all those years and the same old story. And it seems to be this young generation that have this little way of coming out of their cradles and cots, and all of a sudden they've found this little thing called the internet and their phone and social media. They can't help themselves. So we repeat the cycle, the historic cycle. So the reason I brought that through is because Walt Disney, as a person, There's a lot to be said if you dig into his background, and there's a lot of research you can do. But he had a wonderful, wonderful saying. Now, this is what you get if you're in this visionary category. And what happens if you do have a downer? You have a bummer, and you hit a low, and bankruptcy is one of them. And obviously, others with health and stuff can be other things that happen in your life. But you bounce back. As I say, ZuCoins or alligator blood. I mean, alligator blood, just remember, that's one of my great sayings that I've coined because it relates to a term used in poker, which means to be tenacious, resilient, and never give up. And that's exactly what we do here. And that's exactly why we're following where we want to see the dream. Now, his saying was quite simple: think, believe, dream, and dare. Think, believe, dream, and dare. Wow, they're pretty powerful words. Think, believe, dream, and dare. Well, when I was looking at that and those words, the immortal words of Walt Disney, it's very adapt to the circumstances we have today and where we want to be. If you get rid of all that so-called, which he faced in those days, the false rumors and the hoaxes and the rubbish that was printed and published and all the rest of it. But he was thinking through and knew exactly where he was going to be with his business and how he saw himself in the world. And that's what we want people to do, is to think and research, whether it's on ZuCoins or Bitcoin and all the things that I've covered in the earlier episodes. Because that's what people don't do when they consider all this misinformation that gathers and it builds itself up, and away you go. Now, the reason, again, that I wanted to bring those immortal 4 words together is because each day my staff, who work tirelessly away, and remember, they're working to bring the dreams, our dreams, your dreams, to reality, which is why we're in this together, why we're a ZuCoin family. They get these reports on a whole raft of things: marketing, strategies, overnight meetings. They don't just work from 9 till 5. We've got clients overseas, and sometimes their day only starts now because England's starting to wake up, and we're dealing with a lot of parties over there, partnerships and so forth. And they also bring in reports and they say, look, as per your instructions, Al, keep an eye on the social media in general and what's happening, because we collate that information. Now, I don't bother looking at it, sitting there eagle-eyed. As I said, the experiments that I've done work well, and the staff will come in and say things, and throw it in the bin, or we keep a copy, of course, because it's going to work to our advantage later on with the strategies. But one caught my eye today, and that's where I want to hone in on as a result of the sort of material that 30, 40, 50 years ago is the same nonsense that gets recreated and regurgitated, because we seem to have this in and out flow of these young people with, the way in which they want to handle themselves in this environment. And this particular one is, look, I honestly couldn't stop laughing when I saw it earlier today. And I've just sort of, had a bit of a breather this afternoon, because every time I start thinking of it, it really circles back to thinking about Woody and really there's a lot of Woodies out there when I look at it, and you look at that saying in that article, my goodness, but they're a lot of little Woodies. But then I looked at it and I thought, no, look, I'll share some of it because it's relevant to how these myths and things can start to evolve. And I'm here on public record so that we all know, which, unlike poor old Walt Disney, he never had the advantage of that sort of platform we do, other than reliance upon mainstream media. So this little article comes in. It's one of these Woodies out there that's in their troll fiefdoms. We said wet behind the ears, little bloke. He's got an anonymous user handle and so forth. And the reality is he's making himself, trying to make a footprint and a presence built around me. Now, I'm honoured that someone can focus a lot of attention on me. I really am feeling privileged that, their spare time is with me rather than with their girlfriend or boyfriend, and they'd rather have an agenda and focus on me. And it does serve our purposes, which I'll lead into shortly. The success of what's happened as a result of some of this stuff that gets written up. But look, the first couple of lines in this little item that he's posted, Knacker, I think. Knacker. I mean, Macca the Knacker. I mean, it's amazing, Knacker. But look, he said he's perplexed. Now, remember, this is an anonymous little character. Doesn't want to put his name to anything. But the reality is, over the many months, my team's identified these clowns. And when we're ready, we'll make a guest appearance and shake them up a bit. But only because I want to do that and enjoy that sort of side of it, because this is the way in which we want to push out the information. But look, he says in his thing, he can't work out why Alan's spending much time on this. And I guarantee he or one of his shills. Now, shills, wow. I mean, that hasn't been used since the 17th century, that term. And these blokes don't read. Shills. Now, shills is, a scoundrel, a cohort. He's calling my staff shills. Now, that's what got my attention. I don't mind if they call me a shill or crook or whatever you want. I mean, they're going to need better words than that. I've lived with that for 30 years. But to my staff, so very poor taste on that one. And the reality is, he's suggesting that how quickly they receive the messages to read. Now, of course, we collect all social media and we keep it in a nice file and we keep it for a rainy day. And there's plenty of rainy days coming. But what was there, he's saying, we are in damage control trying to stop people joining. We don't give a stuff. And why don't we give a stuff? We're not worried about the negative damage control. I can't press the point enough. The media for us is being out there, controversial or otherwise. Say what you like, printed. But we just wanted to draw their attention as to how important it's been with writing this sort of stuff. And there's a couple of points in there that I'll tick the box with. But why has it been so good? Well, I'll tell you why. Two things happened. Firstly, these little fellas that anonymously hiding behind the cupboards, boo, how are you? Think they're safe? Well, the tracking's easy, boys. There's no problems when you've been in the internet game and IT game for a long, long time. I mean, we've had better people with easy bonds trying to hide their transactions and being all sorts of little deviants. And you think that you're clever, but it's not been clever. It's been absolutely stupid. And I'm sure your mother and fathers would be very disappointed and disillusioned when this sort of stuff will eventually feed its way back based on what we're going to be doing. Now, a shill, I mean, extraordinary. But again, there is a positive. And the positive is that two things have happened. One is my great nemesis, the Australian government, who I have, as you know, no respect, doesn't mean to say I don't comply or oblige, which we all have to. And I'll say it again, a million times, make a fortune. Our mission is to make a fortune. That's what this little part of this journey, whilst we're all still on Earth, is to create an environment that's far more conducive to what mankind's been looking for centuries. Make things a bit more comfortable, to enjoy life without all the other crap going on. Now, we've all got different levels of where we see ourselves, but that's the point in relation to making a fortune. Now, I'm here that if you make a fortune, guess what? I'll make some fortune too. What a surprise. So the mission is to make that fortune for all of us. But what happens with social media? The anonymous little people out there think that they were clever with it. And the nemesis, my Australian government, as I've said, pay your taxes and enjoy the moment when government and the bureaucrats lose your money, the hard-earned money, and you can sift through all of the reports that I've indicated in yesterday's episode, the Australian National Audit Report officers and so on. But one thing that came out, government and government officials don't take lightly to some of this nonsense. Because guess what? They're the ones that are subjected to some more and more of this abusive behaviour on social media. And they're the ones that react to it because they're very sensitive people, politicians. They're not like me. You can throw all the mud and sling and I can take it from all different angles, especially little Knacker trying to make a name for himself. I mean, Woody Knacker. Ooh. But what happens in today's media. So our illustrious Prime Minister, who's worried about what's been written in social media, worried about his MPs and his staff, says we're going to look at changing things from these anonymous people. Now, I'll just read you one paragraph from today's Australian Financial Review on this point. And this is going to happen globally. This is what I've been talking about weeks and weeks ago. The days of the anonymous people hiding are over, because either the platforms are going to cut them out for all legal reasons, because they don't want to be sued, High Court case, voila, or because politicians have decided and woke up and said that we had enough. So let's listen to the first paragraph. Mr. Morrison indicated support for defamation laws that could hold platforms legally liable for comments of anonymous users. However, quote, social media has become a coward's palace where people can just go on there, not say who they are, destroy people's lives, and say the most foul and offensive things to people and do so with impunity. Well, keep printing the stuff, boys, because you're going to end up in jail. It's not because of me. Governments are clamping down, and we're keeping every single screenshot as possible, because guess what? The laws will apply in the next 5 or 6 years in any event. The statute of limitations don't end because you just think you take them down today. They're there forever. They're cached. Why do you think I love caching stuff? Because what I say, I stand by. It's as simple as that. But when you're anonymous, oh my goodness. And just to make now this is the funny part. I mean, this part really got me going, because I couldn't, it was just, it beggars belief. It beggars belief where they're heading with this. But the question was asked that I created my own Telegram account, which we did, and we tested them, and we had this false positives strategy to see how that goes, and it worked well. But he says, Alan and his shills, which is offensive to the staff, and that in itself will drag them into the new laws that are coming. But Alan and his shills reach for anything to discredit us and make our opinions look bad in the eyes of the ZuTime family. Can you believe that? What? They're worried about discrediting an anonymous person. It's extraordinary. How can you discredit an anonymous person? And they're worried about being discredited. Oh, look, you've got to. Sometimes I think that maybe I'm in the Truman Show #2, where nothing's real. And in fact, I don't even know whether my staff, they might be all actors, and everybody's just playing with me. And you guys are watching me through another set of cameras, and there I am with Jim Carrey, because you could possibly not write this stuff. The best script writers in Hollywood, in Walt Disney, could not write this stuff. I mean, that will be immortalized in some of the great world tours of ZuCoins in the future. This will be marketing material A+. I mean, the list goes down. He's written this huge list of stuff, and things like worrying about the $60 price. We've talked about that. We've talked about that. Withdrew the floor because it's not needed. You don't need a floor when you've got Bitcoin trading over $53,000 and we're hunting it down. The technology speaks for itself. Doesn't matter. Talks about buying a horse. Of course we bought one because it was sold for $50 a coin. Sure, bit of a discount. But it was with coins. That's the point. People are prepared to give up assets in exchange for coins at those prices. That's the whole point with merchants. That's the whole point of the process with where we see crypto. Now he says, well, valuations don't work that way. It's laughable about having a cap as what we've got. Well, guess what? I've got the cap and you haven't, because the cap's there. The sales are there, and that's what proves the point when it hits the market. And the valuations are supported by real values, not some dribble commentary. And the real values are supported by the modelling that we've done. Quantitative theory of money. Now, you can't throw away theories of that process and valuation modelling from the 17th century or the great John Maynard Keynes. It doesn't happen because it's there. So when you look at the Walt Disney article, look, if you're going to produce stuff that doesn't make me laugh or makes everybody laugh because it's there forever. I just can't believe. I mean, it's so incredible that the best terminology humanly possible, which is supported by government now, the government are on my side on this point. You've got these palaces of cowards, and they're coming after you. I know what government can do when they come after you. You guys haven't got the spine to handle that sort of action. Think. And what was the first word? What was the very first word of the great Walt Disney? Think. So think. Now, the second point was in relation to the success of what that negative media has done. So if you look at that negative media, let me give you the outcome and achievements for ZuCoins.com. And in a way, that's why I say, if they had their real name, we could send them a hamper or something for Christmas to thank them for their support and spreading the word. I don't care whether it's positive or negative. When you want to read about the facts of what we've given, I mean, they talked about the UL report. Well, the UL report's been up and about. Oh, he says it was removed because we were forced to. No, we weren't. It's sitting there in Discord. All the legal advisors are in Discord. You've just got to read it. Everything's there to be seen. It's all transparent. But when you write this stuff and all sorts of things about Alan has a history of lies and defrauding the government, there's no defrauding the government. All those cases and accusations were made and thrown out. Chief Justice Higgins, criminal cases, they're gone. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. And if you look at those cases and the way that happened and all the rest of it, the only thing that's been defrauded is my shareholders of $4.3 billion, which we've covered that. Now, that's the stuff where I get into is the second point of the great Walt Disney saying. Believe in yourself. I believe that I will win the $4.3 billion if it takes me another 20 years. Because that's what I love. I love the litigation. I love testing the government and what they are saying and throwing at me in order to prove the government wrong and the hot pitfalls in relation to the way they're managing and being uncountable. That's the belief. That's the crucial part. And that's the easy part, because in that belief, I got told the chances of winning a Group 1 race with alligator blood or any horse is 0.03%. 0.03%. Guess what? I set my mind to it. We went in the processes and we won a Group 1. We'll win more yet. It's not over. Because we never give up. I never give up. You need to have that belief, and you need, as ZuCoin holders, to stand by what you've got, because that's the belief, what I said in the podcast about crypto versus government. Trust. In crypto, we trust. I'll say it again. In crypto, we trust. Because why? There's no human input. Now, for me, my trust and faith is in the Lord Jesus Christ and God. So I'm happy that I'm going to end up at the end of this little road trip. I'm going to heaven. Where you go, I have no idea. It's up to you and your beliefs. So this journey is just a journey of staying on planet Earth and looking at all the options we have and what you can do. And that belief is transposed into the systems we've been working through and what we're going to deliver. And that is the coin, ZuCoins, is going to be one of the great phenomenal stories that we've ever heard and seen. Now, I've talked about putting on the line what's my personal belief, again, the Walt Disney belief about the coins. Well, I've told you, from an accounting, corporations background, litigation, I've done it all. I've had valuation modelling for 35 years. And what did I say? If you have the exact same two systems, Bitcoin, ZuCoin, but the ZuCoin's got far superior technology because it solves all those Bitcoin problems we've talked about, then the only model that can happen humanly is the number of coins in both pots. 21 million Bitcoin, 100 million ZuCoin. And if Bitcoin's at 53,000 US dollars, then 20% of that, 10,000 US dollars plus, that's my belief. Now, I don't care what anybody else thinks. That's what's driving me in that belief stage. Now, let's look at the excitement of where that's starting to filter through. By accepting these woodies, these palaces and castles of trolls, they're not a bad thing because they're actually helping us drive the attention to what we want. And we have answers to everything and all the dribble they write. Everything is supported by the information, not the misinformation that poor old Walt Disney had to put up with and creating stupid stories. Now, why am I excited? I just can't believe that what I've led into is now going to show you the impact of what's just been happening. Now, there's 1.8 billion websites estimated in the world. 1.8 billion. They say that there's about 200 million active websites, and even VeriSign, which is the largest in terms of domain, etc., domain names, is saying a recent report, they've got 362.3 million domain names. That's one body. Now, just come back to that number. 1.8 billion websites. And everybody's looking for attention. The attention seekers. We're all trying to get people to look at this YouTube and worry about the numbers and the influencers. And I've got 1 million followers. You know, we've got an anti-ZuTime site with 30 people. We'll build it up to 300,000 because you're helping us. And I'll get to that in a minute. It's one of the greatest things ever. Because then people sit back, read the nonsense, and make their own decision. You've got your own risk profiles, as I've said before. You're not here to believe me, you're here to believe the technology. 1.8 billion websites. What does that mean? Well, every 24 hours, 547,200 new websites are being launched every 24 hours. New websites. So that's 547 new competitors seeking your attention. Now, that's across all sorts of industries. But the exciting bit is that's 547,000 new websites that either Zukaz or ZuCoins can be attracted to. So there's a negative and positive. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law. Love physics. Great stuff. I mean, it's half of these people out there in troll land, they need to have a brick dropped on their head before they realise that there was gravity. I mean, that's the reality of physics and everything coming together. But think about it. Either you've got 547,000 new competitors or you've got 547,000 new opportunities. Now, I said it in an earlier episode. My hero in the 80s was the great Robert Holmes à Court. And one of my great friends, I'm going to do a little session on it, who I miss dearly, has recently died, was John Elliott. Now, people will bag him out and others will say he's a genius, and he was. I've enjoyed his company and always been around observing and trying to get as much of his knowledge into my head about things in life and finances rather than taking the negative. So that's 380 new websites a minute. 380 new opportunities every minute. It's been 30 minutes already. Just work the maths. And we want to get into that market. We're going to go whichever way we can. We're going to look at the knackers. We're going to look at the negatives, the ZuCoins, the cons, all that stuff. Bring it out, baby. Because that's why I see, as I said, belief. Walt Disney. Number 2, belief. That's the belief. That's the belief I have to make this work. And my team, they have a belief. You know, they get upset. The young girls here get upset when some idiot calls them a shill. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And the government will get you in the end. So that's fantastic. That's the latest hot off the press. Now, the internet statistics. Again, I'll just say that 1.8 billion again, plus 547,000 every 24 hours. And you'll understand the excitement I have about this, because We're looking at the 5 top countries of the internet users. There's no surprise, but guess what? China, 854 million users, 850 more potential market. And we got all this wrangling going on. China wants to blow the shit out of Taiwan. Everybody wants all the trade issues, blah, blah, blah. There's a market there. This is the human element of no trust. No trust with the Chinese, no trust with the Australian government. They couldn't negotiate their way out of a paper bag. I mean, you think about it. I've said it. In crypto, we trust because the computer knows 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't need to realign the numbers or come up with a discretion and try and change that maths because someone's not happy with it. You know, China, this is going to be some incredibly interesting times, and particularly if you can say you can rely on a decentralized crypto that makes that money. The belief in that is there because we've had since 2009. We know that this crypto space works. And we know how much it works by because the governments are starting to regulate it. That's your first big tick, your endorsement. And let them regulate it. Make sure who you are. I don't have any problem with identification. I'm Alan Endres. Here I am. I've got a phone number. I've got the email. Contact. You don't need to be anonymous. You don't need to hide your crypto. You don't need to be a drug lord or a tax evader because you can have your crypto. What you need is privacy on your transactions, and you need to have the laws and the courts protecting you so that if there is a law enforcement issue, you go to court properly, you get the proper warrants, you do all that stuff. That's the beauty of crypto. So the second country, India, 560 million users. USA, 300 million. Indonesia, 171 million. And Brazil, 149 million. Now, we've got a lot of work ahead of us to contact all of those people. A lot of work. The strategies. And we're not going to discount any strategy. Whether it's good or bad crap or whatever's written, it doesn't matter. Now, why doesn't it matter? Well, let's get to the good news today, ladies and gentlemen. We did, in another report from my IT team, so that's the social media dribble, but it's had an impact in relation to spreading the word, which we're really pumped about and can't believe it, is the reports we've got about ZuCoins.com and where we sit in that big picture already, and we haven't even started. Now, about 4 months ago, before we started our engine machine, we were sitting at about 5 million in the top rankings of websites. That's not me making it up, right? And that's not even a good figure, but 5 million out of 1.8 odd billion websites. And there's 547,000 new ones coming every day, all looking for your attention. Buy this, do that, search, boom, boom. You know, that's the whole medium upon which that attention is drawn to those sites through the aggregators, the Googles and Facebooks and all that, where they make their money. That's where ZuCas comes in to capture that market. So we were 5 million. Now, about 90 days ago, our ranking position was 1,753,331. Now, that ranking position, as of today, which is what the team's pumped about, and some of this is going to be attributed to the negative news, that ranking position has now pulled in at 413,331. So we're in the 400,000 bracket over the last 120 days. Now, some people say, oh, get on with it about this and that. And this, I mean, the soft launch has been the best thing ever that we've done. It's educating people out there who's spreading the word to make sure they get it right. You've seen the live version of what I did, and the response has been incredible. You know about the exchanges and the way we do that because you want database when you get to that, and you want to be able to say through the ongoing marketing that we're releasing and happening, not just the trolls, they're fantastic. They work for us for nothing. We don't pay a cent. And that's the result. We've come in at 400,000. Better than that even. In Australia, on the Australian rankings, we come in at 8,794, which is extraordinary. And everything's relevant. The strategy and the rollout is relevant to where you want to be, because by the time you hit the exchange, you've got this mass database that's aware of the product, for good or bad, because the technology will prove itself. And that's the point about the live updates that I do, so that you know where I'm thinking, what's happening as we're moving forward. We're not here in a rush to make, the quick buck artists that come and go, because that's what they're doing. And in fact, poor old Knackers and his team sitting there, they're worried because they say I threaten litigation, making promises. They're only promises because, at the end of the day, there's discretion there until the time of which the coins are launched, that we don't have to accept certain buyers because they're either, involved in naughty things. We don't want them, which is part of the due diligence. And that's why we've got the identifications we need, because they're not going to get coins, which is the FOMO, second stage, fear of missing out. Of course they'll miss out, which leads me into, with the preparations that we're doing, that you can see that the visuals that have been happening, the attraction to people now wanting to know about ZuCoins, for good or bad. That's the attention grabbing part that we wanted, and we're going to make it happen. And then you start to get into the third part of the great Walt Disney, the dream, the big dream. Now that's the exciting part, because you can almost touch it. You've got technology that's better than Bitcoin. You know what the market and the world wants of decentralized crypto as an asset class. They're buying it at $53,000. That's not even a dream to say that ZuCoins can't hunt it down. That's becoming more and more the dream towards the reality. Now, the dream I have is a dream of wanting you guys to be super wealthy. Why? Because if you're super wealthy, guess where I sit? And there's a lot of things on my plate that I want to do before I get off the train at the next station. And a lot of it's not driven by all business and money. Money, you can't take the stuff with you, crypto or fiat. You're dead, you're gone, that's it. And you leave it to your siblings, and there's a lot of issues that continue on with that as well. So my dream, by building your dream, solves my problem. It solves where the staff are at. The staff, everybody, they're all been incentivized for that reason. Because there's nothing better than a head of marketing that ends up with millions of dollars because she's taken coins instead of fiat salaries and can live the dream. And she can leave. There's no hard feelings, but they've succeeded with the team. Which comes into the last point about daring. And if you haven't got that, you can forget about the dream, because you've got to be daring. And to be daring, you need to sift through the clutter, which was the point of today's episode. I can take my daringness, which is what I do day to day. I don't have any fear in relation to being daring. That's what I do. I've done it for 40 years. And I've got some daring things that I'm going to be doing post the coins hunting down the value of Bitcoin, ZuCoins. Things that you would say I'm absolutely crazy, let alone getting involved with projects that are dear to my heart, where we've had no solutions in cancer. There needs to be far more input into spinal damage. There's a whole raft of human issues that would unleash or could be unleashed by me being daring and sorting through some of the stuff we get held up in. So, Walt Disney, ladies and gentlemen, one of the all-time great, a hero of mine, on my business card, my bankruptcy business card. I'm Alan Endres. I'm a bankrupt, big deal. I won't be bankrupt for long when I get the 4.3 billion, which is recorded in the Australian budget. some years ago as a quantifiable contingent liability. And it's a liability that's going to reappear in the budgets. I'm not going anywhere. The only place that I want to be is that to see and take this unbelievable project and concept, because you remember earlier we talked about think, Walt Disney, think. There's a lot of thinking going on when I first met Robert. And then it got into the belief this young man will be the absolute genius that this planet will wake up to. So having a belief in Robert is where I sit. He doesn't need to worry about me, but that belief will turn into that dream. Ultimately, the dream is out there. Those that have taken the risks will be part and parcel of how we see where this vision ends up big time. Because I would have a wonderful, wonderful experience to see the ZuCoin family, the ZuCoin early adopters, those that have stuck true, same as my shareholders in each of the entities, to see them and you with some amazing trinkets of life, whether it be houses or cars or whatever touches your fancy, is going to be an amazing journey. And those around us, what they do with it. Because that's the next hard part. It's one thing to get a fortune. It's another to hang on to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough for me on this wonderful Friday, 8th of October. Keep going with that publicity, free publicity out there, little woodies, because, you know, if you do that for us in another month, we should be down around about the 100,000 ranking and absolutely smashing it with people by the time we get to see the coins listed on the exchanges, with a massive demand of people knowing what's going on and how horrified they will be as it's going in price. So everybody, it's a time to say, be safe, be ZuKind, because it's ZuTime.